welcome to Youngest Lake the One YouTube channel. If this is your first time on my YouTube channel, please subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking on the red subscribe button down below and turn on the bell icon. Tell me what you think about this video in the comment section.
Come from agreement, should not come from shouting. That's why you notice that a lot of shouting goes on and you never hear me respond. Rarely maybe, but largely no. Because if we join in that fray, we are all viewed as part of one package. So we're very grateful for your principles, your values as our youth citizen. We're very grateful. Let me return to the partnership. Health. I'm very enthused to hear the list, the locations from which you operate. Education. This church, I think, if I'm not mistaken, is in just one of your schools. My young sister went to Njasa. And we knew this work you are doing long before Formien assumed leadership. We knew what UCZ was doing to us as families. And the institutions you run are generally excellent institutions. And many kids in our area would love as girls to go to Njasa. Unfortunately, it was only for girls. I believe maybe some of us would have been found there. So we want to also acknowledge this service you are rendering to the nation, to the very community I'm talking about, of being one. In health, I've touched on it. Chipendi is another clear star of the church in your portfolio. And if the Minister of Education was here, he would have been smiling. He sits in that chair somewhere there. And he uses in our cabinet meetings, Chipendi. Uses it, Chipendi. He sits there. Secretary to the cabinet knows. This minister knows. So you can see how your government values this church. But it values this church and other churches because of your works. Where I was raised, there is a saying that you love people for their works, how they behave, how they conduct themselves. Because when you're hungry, you can't cut them into pieces and cook them in the pot and eat. So what you eat is their work. It's parochial, difficult to explain it in another language. If I say it in Tonga, you'll understand. Huh? But I'm sure others have similar things. So I want to confirm here that this government places great importance on health, on education, health. You acknowledge our free education. 2 million kids went back to school after we pronounced the free education policy. 2 million. Now ask yourselves the question, what were those kids going to be if we did not bring free education to the policy? What were they going to be? Those are God's children, and their parents, their guardians couldn't afford education, the cost of education. They are now back to school. School feeding program, meal allowances for kids in certain colleges, more bursaries, more student loans. We are completely aligned. Health, first education, that's why we employ more teachers, building more classrooms. Ask your leaders across the country what's happening in construction of schools, health centers, water and sanitation. And I want not to belabor the point to say, we want to further our partnership with this church because it's saving the very people that the government should be providing those services. am not sure how it is organized with yourselves, but we want to say to you, this government, when the church needs the teachers, will make teachers available. And pay them, because it has saved the government to build another school around where you are. But the government, as your partners, must provide. Same with the health centers, where the church needs a nurse. I do believe it's happening already. But if there's more needed, please let us know. Because that's what we're doing to Catholic schools, I can say it here. That's what we're doing to other church schools. It's the approach of this government that we need to improve education and health. I want to invite you, this church, specifically, not generically, specifically, when a church school, a church health service needs water, please use the CDF facility, Constituent Development Fund. And my colleagues here, Minister, you're here, he runs a constituency. Why wouldn't you approve a CDF application for water at a clinic run by UCC in your constituency? You should. Or the school. So I want to encourage you, because I see a bit of distrust. We're failing to communicate to the government properly that these services, these funds are meant for the community. Who is the community? It includes the church. So I want to make it clear here, Bishop, please help someone in your management structure at national leadership, cascaded to the provinces, someone to a grassroots, so they can link with our government programs such as CDF for infrastructure, which includes health, education, water, sanitation. I don't see a problem that this is a school needs water or additional water. We sink a borehole through that facility, we put the solar through that facility, reticulation, because that's the intention of that facility. Taking money from Lusaka, where most of the money for years was being consumed, and consumed, you know what I'm going to say next, inefficient. I would have said corrupt. That true is true. So our intention was to take a chunk of that money, 36.1 million per constituency per year, to the local areas where the churches are operating from. And they should access those facilities there. And when they do, they will serve the community better. As I said, teacher-pupil ratio is very important to get the kids to learn properly. Other facilities I've talked about, health. That, I think, is a practical way of deepening our partnership. Because you talked about working together, isn't it? And being specific. My message, I think, should be taken forward by having a small group. This is what we're doing with other churches. We select a small group here. It works with ourselves. I have a presidential delivery unit. I have also a ministry, so we can tie the two together. Bishop Chulu and myself, we have a small team. Then that small team will be working on a live basis. Not because we have met, but as routine. In Borokoso, in Chama, in Senanga, in wherever. And I think that will be quicker and more practical. I want to indicate to you that I am very sorry about the NH project. I'm listening to you carefully. You saw me looking over this side. These colleagues know when I look over this side, I'm sending a message. Why would we delay the NH project, which is in line with our vision? funding is there. So I want to say, but more important, the country needs the power. Because the quantities you're talking about will go on the grid. What you generate minus what you consume, the rest will go on the grid, isn't it? So, we are, and you've heard the President say, we have reformed the NSA. Independent power producers like yourselves, like what you see in December, 100 megawatts. Independent traders, open access. Whatever you produce, if we can put it on the grid, it will also not just supply power, but generate the church resources. The church needs to raise money in a sustainable way, rather than in challenging ways where we politicians want to pay churches, so that we can influence them. The church of this credibility, I think, needs to be encouraged. Because I'm an entrepreneur myself. To be encouraged to enterprise and to raise resources so you can continue evangelism. That's the connection. So I don't want to belabor this point. I'm very sorry about that situation. I'll make a follow-up and it will happen. By the end of today, you will get a notice where is the issue and how we unlock it. That's more important, isn't it? So we get it right. We want to thank you for responding to that. But also climate change issues you talked about. This solar qualifies in that area. We also want to ask you, since you've done a lot in other areas, health, education, now, please, food production is important. We want to encourage the church. Some of your colleagues have farms. I do believe you may have some land as a church. I want to encourage you to produce, to irrigate, so we don't have to rely on the rain. I'm sure you've heard my messaging on irrigation. And again, with programs here, is another area of interaction. The government has programs to support water harvest for irrigation. We have sustainable agriculture financing facility. For your public sector workers who are UCZ members, we have a financing facility in the government called, Kangwa, remind me? Public finance, let me call it financing scheme. Please encourage them. They work for government, central, local, they qualify to access money for agriculture support at 9% only. But when it's discussed by the church, I think they'll wake up and say, the church is aware of this issue. So this interaction will make this information known so that you can distribute it. So we look at different angles from which the church can come to help in agriculture. Mainly, so when we have a drought next time, 3 years from now, we should still have food security. We should have energy security. One drought, west drought, and then in memory decapitated us. I think God was slapping us on the left cheek, the right cheek to wake up. And your government has woken up in partnership with yourselves in energy. Now I'm saying in agriculture. That's the call I'm making. I'm sure you followed. I was in Chikuni mission, which is the Catholic mission. I offered personally to help them revive a farm which was established in 1905. During a missionary who came there, and then the farm has gone down. Right now we're waiting on reviving that. I offer personally to support if the church has any farming activity of that nature. We're doing the same with the SDS. In Rusango, the two missions are next to each other. Maybe that's why sometimes they appear like they're competing. The two missions were all established in the same year, 1905, 1905. Just a few kilometers apart, on a river, Magoya River separates us. But the message is that we would like to work with the church in that space as well. Government, but also private. For me, that is the pleasure I get Africa can support to provide seed, not food for the table, but seed, which will lead to food forever. Two are different. I wanted to indicate these things, and I thank Mr. Kangwa, in the cabinet. A lot has been said. I want to appreciate the issues